Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. Men's super bantamweight news. You may have heard that Inoue has already found a replacement for Sam Goodman. South Korea's Joon Kim was elevated from standby status to junior attraction as the next challenger for Inoue's Ring Magazine Undisputed Junior Featherweight Championship. Ohashi Promotions confirmed the replacement during an emergency press conference held on Saturday afternoon local time in Yokohama, Japan. The quick swap allowed the Lamino pay-per-view ESPN Plus headliner to remain on course for later on this month on the 24th at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo. Kim, 21-2 with 2 draws and 13 knockouts, was brought in hours after Australia's Sam Goodman, 19-0 with 8 KOs, was forced to withdraw for the second time in 3 weeks. The same injury felt the ring number 3 junior featherweight contender, a reopened cut suffered during a recent training session. Goodman was previously due to challenge Inoue, 28-0 with 25 KOs, the ring number 2 pound-for-pound fighter, on December 24th. That event was postponed by exactly 1 month after he suffered a cut during his final sparring session before he was due to fly to Tokyo. You guys know what I think? I think he's faking the injury, and I don't think Sam Goodman ever wanted this fight. Though, if he's not about to have it, by the time that cut heals, what is he going to do? Because he knew he has all the belts. There are no world titles of opportunity. There isn't one lying around that nobody's holding, one that's easier to win. What becomes of Sam Goodman? Inoue and Ohashi Promotions agreed to postpone the show rather than move on without Goodman. That luxury was not available this time around, nor will Goodman be in a position to re-enter the mix anytime soon. No Limit Boxing confirmed to the ring that the unbeaten contender will undergo plastic surgery, which will leave him sidelined until early summer. Kim's value as a selected opponent was that he was already in place to fight. The 32-year-old Seoul brother was due to face the Philippines' Kenny Demasio, with the understanding that he was the break glass in case of emergency option for this event. A modest 2-fight winning streak accompanies Kim's first career title fight as he takes a massive leap in competition. The well-traveled 12-year pro will fight in his 6th country in as many fights, but never anything beyond the fringe contender level. Meanwhile, Inoue enters his 22nd career major title fight, plus 2 secondary title fights spanning 4 weight classes. The Ring 2023 Fighter of the Year won the WBC Junior Flyweight title in just his 6th pro bout and has served among the sport's very best ever since. He went on to win the WBO Junior Bantamweight title before his move to Bantam, where he fully unified the division and claimed the Ring Magazine Championship. Inoue went on to do the same at Super Bantamweight in just his first 2 fights at a new weight. Both came in his 2023 Fighter of the Year run in knockout wins over unified champions Stephen Fulton and Marlon Tapales. Had the fight with Goodman held its original December 24th date, Inoue would have enjoyed a 3-bout 2024 campaign, his first since 2017. That plan is now in place for this year, which made it crucial to preserve the January 24th date. With a win, Inoue confirmed to the Ring earlier this week of his intention to fight in the United States later this spring. The likely opponent will be Alan David Picasso, the Ring's number 5 junior featherweight and his WBC mandatory challenger, all before he takes care of the WBA's mandatory challenger. That'll be the second WBC mandatory he's fought.
The first was Luis Neri.
All before he takes care of the WBA's mandatory challenger, MJ Akhmadaliev, former unified champion MJ Akhmadaliev, as it pertains to MJ and the potentiality of that fight. Uzbek boxing scribe Jalal Akhmadov said, according to Ohashi, Inoue will defend his titles against Joon Kim, vacate his WBA title, and face the #1 WBC contender Alan Picasso at the MGM Grand. A unification bout with Uzbekistan's Mutajan Akhmadaliev is likely in Riyadh this fall.
Few passing thoughts.
This push to bring Inoue to America in the spring to fight a guy who's not even well known in America seems a pointless formality to me because Inoue versus anybody in Japan does big business. Anybody. Whereas Inoue versus Picasso in America...
Neither of those two guys are all that well known here.
That is outside of hardcore boxing circles. The hardcore boxing fan in America knows all about Inoue, but the casual doesn't. So the idea that you're gonna leave your adoring public in Japan to go fight some nobody in America...
Why?
Ohashi has basically confirmed that Inoue means to drop the WBA title in between his upcoming fight and the fight with David Allen Picasso. So he will become subject to criticism, at least momentarily, until such a time as he has the fight with MJ.
While he still hasn't, dropping his belt is just gonna fuel more accusations that he's afraid of that fight, he's afraid of that fighter, and he's ducking MJ. Until such a time as he fights him and he beats him.
And MJ, in that scenario, might be elevated to full WBA champion, making him a 2-time super bantamweight champion, or he fights Ramon Cardenas for the newly vacated title. Just one of those guys that are there in the WBA's ranked standings. Ramon Cardenas at number 2, Elijah Pierce at number 3, Luis Neri at number 4. I could go for that.
Or a rematch with Marlon Tapales. He's there at number 5. Sam Goodman is there at number 6.
Would be a strange twist of fate if MJ Akhmadaliev ends up fighting Sam for the newly vacated WBA title. I think it would make it that much more obvious that Sam's been avoiding that fight with Inoue, and he wanted to fight for a title, just not against Inoue.
Well, they said he's gonna have paper or plastic surgery.
Yeah, so they say. But who's supposed to follow up on that when they're all the way down there in Australia?
I don't believe a word they say. I don't think Sam ever wanted to have this fight.
So maybe he'll be more receptive to an MJ Akhmadaliev fight if he is fortunate enough to get that opportunity.
The silver lining.
The longer this Inoue is ducking MJ narrative goes on, the bigger the fight between them becomes, because the fight by itself in the beginning didn't have much of a profile since MJ isn't that well known. But ever since he started calling out Inoue and claiming that Inoue's ducking him, the icing on the cake would be if Inoue drops the WBA title. That's going to galvanize a lot of people.
Convince them
that Inoue is scared of this guy. He is avoiding this guy because look, he just handed over his belt. Why would he do that to go fight some nobody in America that's done absolutely nothing? Surely, in this division, MJ's been a unified champion before, whereas this Picasso kid
is the best guy he fought.
So the optics are pretty bad. Bad enough that they might convince a lot of people that Inoue is avoiding this fight, which would in effect make it bigger when it happens. It's strategy,
but the only way that Inoue would be exonerated of culpability is if he actually fights MJ, because up until he does, it looks like a stone-cold duck.
We'll see what shakes out, because for Inoue to prove that it wasn't a duck, he's got to make it past this Korean kid, then the Picasso kid, then get to MJ. Men's super middleweight news, Canelo Alvarez was recently asked as to whether or not there's still a chance that he might face Terence Crawford, to which Canelo responded, "There's always a chance I'll fight Terence Crawford. We'll see, but there's always a chance. We're here to make the best deals."
So if he fights Terence Crawford, that latest narrative that he's avoiding Terence falls by the wayside, as there were a few individuals propagating that.
It helps that Canelo Alvarez was recently in attendance this past weekend for the inaugural Ring Magazine Awards, a soiree helmed by none other than Turki El Sheikh himself. It also helps that Turki has identified the Canelo versus Crawford fight as one of the bigger fights he hopes to make this calendar year. He has a wish list of big fights, 5 big fights he wants to make, and that is one among them. And it also helps that Canelo and Turkey were seen arm in arm with each other at the soiree, a relationship that perhaps got off to a rocky start. Turkey not understanding. Canelo's not a guy who can be pressed or pressured for an answer, least of all when he's already en route to another fight. At that time, the Edgar Berlanga fight where they wanted a commitment from him, an answer.
He's focused on another guy. He's not going to give you that right now. And he's not strapped for cash to where he has to.
To where he is in need or is desperate like some other fighters. No, Canelo Alvarez has always marched to the beat of his own drum, and that's what some people respect about him. That's what I respect about him.
Hard work pays off.
And you're out of your goddamn mind if you don't acknowledge that Canelo has put the work in to where he doesn't answer to anybody. He's his own boss. He does whatever he does on his own time, and if you want to work with him, you have to respect that.
I don't think some people were expecting this, that maybe Canelo and Turkey might work together after all, but I was expecting it because that's what real business guys do. And Canelo Alvarez is the businessman that so many American fighters pretend to be.
Just a small misunderstanding, a small miscommunication. Don't let that get in the way of millions upon millions of dollars. Most are heralding this image here as the beginnings of what could be the Terence Crawford fight, which, as stated, some people thought Canelo was avoiding. A good number of content creators and monetized accounts on Twitter
Fishing for reactions?
what is often referred to as engagement farming, to where you'll say something knowing how people are going to react, that it's going to get a reaction, adverse or otherwise, because that's how you get paid.
From the engagement.
The caveat is, get it wrong enough times and people stop engaging, people stop listening, and you're just some blithering idiot shooting off at the mouth again. Though if what this heralds is a move towards a Terence Crawford fight bankrolled by Turkey El Sheikh, one is left to wonder if Canelo will continue in his partnership with the PBC, because in a situation like that, he wouldn't have much use of them anymore. In Canelo's last two fights, they didn't even provide him with the opponents. No, Jaime Munguia was a Golden Boy Promotions fighter. Edgar Berlanga was and still is with Matchroom. So if the PBC ain't even providing the bodies anymore, what do you need them for?
Turkey's paying for everything.
And remember that the official broadcast partner of Riyadh season moving forward is DAZN. They may not be sharing the rights to Turkey's fights anymore, and this would be one of Turkey's fights. Canelo versus Crawford, if he's the one that puts the money up, so why would they share the rights to it with the PBC, with Amazon? What are they contributing?
This could be the end.
And if it is, I suppose that would free up some of the PBC's money that they're not paying Canelo anymore, that they're not putting up to do other shows throughout the calendar year, though not a single one among them would draw the same audience or generate the same money as a Canelo Alvarez fight. They only did 5 shows last year. 2 of them were Canelo Alvarez fights. You have to wonder, what did that run them? What did that cost them?
Enough that they only did 5 shows last year.
So if they're not on the hook to pay Canelo Alvarez's hefty guarantees anymore in this calendar year, maybe they do more than just 5 shows this year, but those shows won't do what Canelo's fights do.
That's a lot of ifs and a lot of maybes. A lot that's left in the air. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
See what happens. Over to yet another fight Turkey wants to make this year, the Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury fight. Anthony Joshua admits the end is nigh, so Tyson Fury fight might just come soon.
He was also in attendance for the inaugural Ring Magazine Awards this weekend.
Anthony Joshua is making a long-awaited showdown with Tyson Fury a priority in 2025 after admitting at the Ring Awards in London that the end of his career is nigh. The 35-year-old, who had 2 fights last year, spectacularly knocking out Francis Ngannou in February before a humbling stoppage loss to Daniel Dubois 6 months later, since that September reverse, which saw Joshua's record drop to 28-4 with 25 KOs, there has been plenty of soul-searching from the former heavyweight champion. Now he's determined to make the most of the time he has left in the sport, and that includes a showdown with his long-standing rival, Fury. It's a fight that I want to see. I'm a boxing fan. I want to get that out of the way, Joshua said. The reason why I decided to do some interesting stuff is that I ain't got many years ahead of me. I got more years behind me than I have in front of me. I want to leave the game with a bang, make an impact, be outlandish, a great character, have fun with it while we're doing it, and go for the big fights. Tyson Fury is one of them. Every time I see people, the Irish community, the English community, the Nigerian community, everyone is asking me the same question. So as a fighter, it's up to me to deliver. It has to happen this year, especially with His Excellency Turkey, DAZN, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, 258 behind me. I'm sure with him, Fury, being managed by Spencer Brown, and Gold Star now, I think we can definitely make this fight happen. There are questions as to what Anthony has left to give to the sport.
What does Tyson Fury have left to give to the sport? How does the old saying go? It's hard to get out of bed for a wank when you're wearing silk pajamas.
No, it's hard to go take a leak when you're sleeping in silk sheets.
Look, whatever it is, both Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua have had successful boxing careers. They would be leaving the sport with so much more money than they came into it with.
And that's what accents the success that they've had. To leave the sport with more than you came into it with. They both have. So it would be a fitting end for the both of them to cap off their careers that are now winding down with a fight against each other. Because it's not really about a belt.
Still a huge fight.
So many people want to poo-poo all over it because Anthony's got 4 losses now and Tyson Fury has 2. Do you still want to see it? Does it still mean as much? They say this now, but as soon as that fight is made, you're going to see a whole lot of Brits buying a ticket and even more buying the pay-per-view. That this fight commercially is bigger than most fights that you can stage in America. Bigger than most pay-per-views that are happening right now. Bigger, certainly bigger than Benavidez versus Morrell. This fight generates way more money than that one. Bigger than Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach?
I've watched the Americans undermine British boxers' earning power for years, not realizing how affluent and vibrant that market is, and that's why the second-ranked boxer behind Canelo Alvarez is Anthony Joshua on the Forbes list.
The way the Americans like to carry on, you would have thought it were an American, like Gervonta Davis, who they claim is the face of boxing when he is neither the number 1 or number 2 highest-earning boxer. You would have thought it was David Benavidez, the would-be Mexican monster.
Not so monster earnings, not so monster commercial value.
Joshua versus Fury is still a bigger fight, even now, than most fights, most pay-per-views happening in America with what are supposed to be the somebodies.
The Americans don't have to like it.
The Americans don't have to buy it. God only knows these Americans don't seem to buy most of what boxing puts out, internationally or domestically. Don't buy it. You don't have to. The Brits will. Enough of them that this will be a wildly successful fight. You worry about the Charlo brothers' ETA.
Don't worry about when they're coming back.
As far as who wins the fight, there is a legitimate argument that Tyson Fury showed better form in his last outing than Anthony Joshua did, that Anthony got decimated.
Yeah, Tyson Fury lost, but not as bad as Anthony.
At the same time, I feel like Anthony might want this fight a bit more than Tyson Fury. I feel like if there's a fight out there that still gets him out of bed and inspires him, it would be this one.
If Fury takes it, I feel like he's only taking it for the money.
Whereas Anthony feels like he's got something to prove, and beating Fury, he can prove it.